afternoon, folks. This is Maggie Rose, and this is the new Concord Hour being brought to you by the Microeffect Radio Broadcasting Network out of Idaho. This is your host. This is Maggie Rose. For those of you that did not tune in yesterday, it's been decided that from now on, we are going to be doing Wednesdays with Cy and also with Donna Hammond. Donna is not related to the Hammonds up in Harney County, but she supports a lot of what's been going on with them. I see right now Bonnie and Cy and Joe McNeil are in the chat room. Cy, have you decided if you're going to still be coming up on Wednesday? Let me know, please. I have discussed it with both Cy and Donna, and we're trying to come up with a name now. So it'll be basically the three of us women doing the show on Wednesdays, unless something comes up with either Cy's children or with Donna Hammond's children, and then I'll be flying it alone on Wednesdays. But Wednesday's going to be Girls' Day. And then basically we're going to discuss between the three of us what the topic is going to be. Wave right back at you, Cy. So anyway, that's kind of what we're discussing. I do not want us to always here on the show always be talking about the exact same things over and over again, beating it to death. I have had a lot of people write into the show telling me that they listen to many other of the competition that's out there, and it's always the same old, same old. So there's going to be occasions when we're going to have a show on capital punishment again, on homeschooling, on various different things that are going on. We're going to be doing updates. I've been asked by a bunch of people, since I am a combat medic and a licensed nurse, if we could have a few shows on medical preparedness, because a lot of people feel that even though they listen to a lot of other hosts here on the Microeffect and also in other alternative radios out there, that there's still something new they get out of every host. So I think that's a really great idea. In fact, what I will be doing is kind of picking the brains of people like Valerie, who's in the chat room right now, and Cy and Bonnie, along with Maranatha, and also as well as Donna Hammond. And I think between all of us gals and some of you guys that decide that you want to chime in, let us know, you guys, what sort of topics you would like us to come up with on the Tuesday through Thursday shows, because I'm very available to look into anything you want me to bring up. I'll do my research. I will find out what sources that I can give you, so you can go to those sources, look it up for yourself. I've said this time and again, I do not believe in just spoon-feeding you the information out there. I don't want you to think that necessarily everything that I bring up on this show is my personal belief or my personal convictions or feelings. As you all know, convictions are stronger than a belief. When you have a belief in something, depending upon your life experiences and depending upon the people that come into your life, you can end up having a belief system that can be changed, and it's interchangeable. But when you are convicted of something, like for many of you, your own spiritual or your own moral compass, I'm not perfect, and I never said that I was. And I make mistakes too in my own personal life, and sometimes I make decisions that I think at the moment were the best thing, or I spout off and say something in reaction to something else that was said or done, and then I look back and I think, oh, maybe I should have withheld what I had to say until later. There's a lot of people in our community, whether they're friends or family or significant others, that don't necessarily agree with what our personal beliefs are, our ideology, our spiritual background, our belief system. But I would hope that we could all learn in this world to be a little bit more tolerant of each other. And I think the reason why so many people out there are attacking other cultures or belief systems or ideologies is partially based on fear. And a lot of men and women won't admit that. But over and over again, I am hearing from Donna Hammond and so many others that it's fear-based. And I tend to agree with these women. I think it is fear-based. And I think that all of us have to look at ourselves and our own moral compass and decide for ourselves just how much are we willing to put up with. Now, I myself have seen over and over again certain things that have happened that I just myself could not live with and are really bothering me. And I had something that was sent to me by my mother. Now, there's an organization out there. There's a website. It's called change.org. That's change, CHANGE.org. And on change.org, if you go to that website, you will find that there are various petitions that you can sign depending upon whatever it is that they put up on their website at this particular time. Now, there's one that my mother brought across to my desk, which is a very, very good one that we need to all kind of jump in there. And it goes like this. The subject is, "My son is trapped overseas while I am struggling to survive." And this is a petition that you can sign. It's called Bring Adam Home. And I will go ahead and read this to you so you have some idea what it is that Carolyn, the mother, is asking for all of us to do. Right now, there are 43,688 supporters. This is a petition that was put out there by Carolyn Grant. And it goes like this. "My name is Carolyn Grant. I am an American, born and raised. My parents met during the World War II. My father was in the U.S. Army and my mother in the British Air Force. When I was 13 years old, my mother moved us to England, where I eventually married and had my wonderful son, Adam. The marriage was abusive, and I returned to the United States with Adam when he was 3 years old. I immediately inquired with immigration to be sure that Adam had U.S. citizenship. Immigration officials assured me that since I was a U.S. citizen, Adam was already a U.S. citizen. It was such a relief to know that we could start a new life back in the United States, protecting him from his very troubled father." Decades later, that's, a decade, as you all know, is 10 years. So she's saying decades later. So this could be 20 years later. Adam learned that his father was sick and wanted to see him. Adam applied for a passport and was told he is not a U.S. citizen. Anyone who has navigated the U.S. immigration system knows it is a maze of confusion and dead ends. It's even worse when you can't afford a lawyer. We were directed to different departments and asked to fill out form after form, each costing more than the last. Our financial resources were drained on stacks of paper, and we were unable to sort out this situation in time. Adam had to fly on a UK passport to see his father. And in May 2015, when he tried to return home afterwards, Adam was informed that his return visa had been revoked. My son, who has been an American his entire life, was not being allowed to return to the U.S. We have been told it could be 10 years before he could come home, due to a backlog of visas awaiting approval. Please urge the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service to help grant Adam a quick return to the U.S. and to his home. I am a I live on a small disability, and Adam has helped me with my bills ever since my diagnosis. I truly believe I am still alive because of his care. At the time of his trip, I was living with him, but now his lease has since expired because I was unable to afford the rent. I am now staying at my daughter's apartment, which is soon to be sold, and I don't know where I can go from here. I was recently rushed to the ER with chest pain due to the stress of this situation. Adam has lived in the U.S. as a citizen since age 3. He has a Social Security card, a driver's license, and is E-verified to work here. And immigration is unresponsive to all my attempts to sort it out. I only wish I could afford a lawyer to bring him back home. He has a brother and a sister here who miss him terribly. He has me. He has a whole life that is now slowly fading as he sits over there in limbo. I have contacted all my state and federal representatives. I have filed every possible form with immigration. We need help to get our son and brother back. Please join us in urging the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service to help bring Adam back to his home and back to the United States. And again, folks, you can find this at change.org. Now, I don't know what you all feel about this, okay? Again, you can find that at www.change.org. And there are a lot of things on there that you can also find, that petitions that you can sign as well. Folks, here we have a man that has been living in the U.S. all of his life short of 3 years. And he's got brothers and sisters here. He's got his mother here. He's been here. He's got a driver's license, a social security card. And all of a sudden he goes over to visit his ailing father under a UK passport. And now the U.S. won't let him come home. But we are allowing all these people to storm over the borders and allowing them amnesty, and we're giving them social security numbers, and we're giving them driver's licenses. And yet here we have a young man who was raised here all his life, went to school here, graduated high school here, and our U.S. Immigration Naturalization will not let him come home after going to see his dying father. Now, my daughter, she ended up going over to England, and she met a really nice young man who was visiting here in the United States. And she went over to England and to meet his family, and they ended up getting married over there. And she ended up helping put him through university in England. And after a few years, they came back here to the United States. And she ended up having my first 3 grandchildren out of 7. My 8th grandchild is on the way. And each of those 3 kids, my 2 granddaughters and my grandson, that were born here in the U.S., have been informed that they have dual citizenship. Now, this is not only because they were born here in the United States, but their mother is an American citizen. And then their father, when he moved over here and brought my daughter over here, and they had the 3 children here, he got his green card and was on his way to citizenship. But he was also informed that because of the fact that he was a British citizen, while my daughter was an American citizen, all 3 of these kids have British citizenship. They have dual citizenship. And it's not just because of the fact they were born here. It's because their father is a British citizen. Now, why is it that this young man is born in England, which is one of our friendly allies, right? And he comes over here at age 3, goes to school, graduates high school, taking care of his mother, the main sole provider for her. And he goes over there. First, he tries to get a regular passport, and they won't give it to him, so he gets a UK passport, so he can still be legitimate, right? Goes to see his dying father, and now he won't be allowed back in the country. I don't know about this, but, Cy said the U.S. is arbitrarily deciding that he's not an American. Really, I agree. I agree. That is exactly what they're doing. And yet they will go ahead and open up the borders to anybody and everybody. They're even secretly, Obama, I understand. I've got a website here I can give you, a bunch of different websites I can give you, so you can cross-reference and verify for yourself that Obama is secretly bringing people in from other countries. Many of these people that are escaping out of Syria, that, their lives have been torn up by war. And he's secretly flying these people into the United States and taking them to the middle of the United States, way out in areas that are farm country, the heartland America, where there's very small population, very small communities, hoping that we will not see them and we will not know they're there, and planting them there, and then giving them all kind of benefits to get them started. Now, I'm not begrudging us helping people as long as they come into this country legally, and as long as there's a good reason for bringing them here. But not deceiving the American people is the fact that who you're bringing in, and they're not being properly vetted, many of them. And then, so we know ISIS is being planted all over the United States. They're training in many of the back forest and mountainous regions throughout the United States, including in Washington, Oregon, and California. We're getting reports that Russians are being trained in the woods and the forest between Klamath Falls, Oregon, and Jackson County, which is the Medford area of Oregon. And they've been seen there, and it's been verified by many, many sources. So why is it this young man is being denied coming back home to his family, where he's been all his life? So if any of you, could please go to that site on www.change.org and sign the petition. And also, while you're there, look at some of the other petitions that are there as well. You'll find some very, very interesting things, as I did. There is also another piece of information that I was sent regarding, let's see, it was coming from the Scotland's People, the April 2016 newsletter. I don't know if you, any of you subscribe to Scotland's People, but it seems that right now there is a Zeppelin air raid article in there about the Zeppelin air raid on Edinburgh and Leith that was April of 1916. So exactly 100 years ago. The air raid by 2 German Zeppelins on Leith and Edinburgh caused the deaths of 13 people and injuries to many more, as well as extensive damage to some buildings. But the terrifying raid on 2 to 3 April 1916 also had a big impact on the births of 2 children. And here is some extraordinary personal stories of the raid. And they're asking if there was somebody in your family that was caught up in the raid, or if you have a story to share, please send an email to press, at Scotland's, SCOTLANDS, people, PEOPLE.gov.uk. So it's a newsletter I get on a regular basis, and it gives me a lot of information on what's happening over in the UK and what's happening around Europe. I know there's also a section in there where you can look up your family genealogy, and with Ancestry is really expensive. A lot of people can't afford that. But I do know that there are a lot of people that have been giving me some information, including what's going on right now with the West Research family. There's an article called Unseen Right Hand Right Now, and it has to do with what's happening with the market right now. There's some things that are going really bumpy with the money in the markets right now, and I've had a lot of people trying to inform me that it looks like there's some things going on in Washington, D.C. people are not being made aware of. There's meetings going on and concerns taking place right now with what is actually happening with the investing, what's happening with the banks. And it seems that some things are taking place with the euro dollar. So that's something we really need to kind of keep our minds on right there. As far as what is happening with the American dollar, my daughter said she's making a trip over to Europe here real soon. And I guess the euro dollar, if you want to exchange with the American dollar and the euro dollar, in England they work with pounds, but in France it's the euro dollar, and it's like $1.40 to $1.50 of American money to $1 of the euro. And that's kind of what is going on right now. There's a lot of information that is not coming out. That I understand the other day I was informed of secret meetings going on behind doors with Obama and Vice President as well. Now, normally the Vice President and the President would not meet together behind closed doors with all the world bankers. So my question is, why is it that the President and Vice President Biden are having closed doors, and that's the term that Cy uses, closed door stuff, going on behind closed doors with all the world bankers? What is it that they are fearful is coming? What is the concern right now with what is happening with our economy? Obviously, they don't want to cause a panic here, so they're probably not going to give us a lot of information. Maybe they see that there's something looming on the horizon, and they are trying to plug the hole again with their finger like they've been known to do before. So if anybody would like to call into the show, you can call into area code 208, and that's 935-0094. That's area code 208. We do not have a 1-800 number right now, but you can call into 208-935-0094. I would love to be able to take your calls. Now, we will not take any calls when it's 10 minutes before the top of the hour. So at 10 minutes to 3, we will not be taking any more calls because at 10 minutes to 3, we need to start winding things down and wrapping things up. So if you want to call in now and call in anytime until just a little before 10 minutes to 3, or some say 1,500. And I would love to take your questions or put some more information out there. Let's see, I'm in the chat room right now, and I understand, according to Bonnie, she said ISIS does have a training camp about 8 miles from the border. She said you can find that again. ISIS has a training camp 8 miles from the border near El Paso, www.freerepublic.com /focused. It seems that what's going on right now, folks, and you can also, there's some things that Cy just sent me on the chat room that experts are warning of downright disastrous and impending collapses everywhere. You can find that at allnewspipeline.com. News, N-E-W-S pipeline, P-I-P-E-L-I-N-E.com. That is really something that I have been very concerned about because, you know, nowadays we're hearing a lot of people saying you just need to get more food for an emergency. If the stores close down for a few hours, a few days, a few weeks, you need to make sure that you have a supply on hand. I know that a lot of people, there are a lot of religious people out there, spiritual people out there that believe that you should have a 2-year supply minimal of each member in your family in case there's a loss of jobs or a death in the family or something happens. So if you go to All News Pipeline, and it's www.allnewspipeline.com /US, that's U like in uniform, S like in Sam, _ banks, BANKS _ not, NOT _ prepared _ for _ bank _ run. And there you will see where they're talking about the concerns, what is going on right now with the economy, that the banks, if there was another run like the 1929, we're not going to be prepared. You can find in there under April, there's quite a few articles. One of them is Desperate Michelle Fields attacks Greta as Trump shrill while irresponsible Megyn Kelly eggs Fields on. Experts are warning of downright disasters and impending collapses everywhere. That means in Europe too, folks. They says get ready to get out. U.S. banks are not prepared for what's coming. I've spoken to my brother. My brother was the vice president of a bank in Los Angeles, as was his wife. And they were telling me that a lot of the well-to-do have been taking their money out of the banks. They've been closing up their portfolio. They've been leaving for parts unknown, South America, Switzerland, the Netherlands. A lot of them going to South America. Some of them are going overseas to some of the smaller islands. Now, what is it they know that we don't know? I don't know, folks. I'm still doing my research. Things are still out to lunch. There's another one here is, you know, you have to think about the Cascadia events, too. All along the West Coast, we have the Ring of Fire. From San Diego all the way up around through Alaska into Russia and down into Japan and Hawaiian Islands. The Ring of Fire is the area where if there's massive earthquakes, catalysmic events, what we call a Cascadia event through Oregon, is that it's going to be very, very disruptive. The earthquake that took place, the Norma Prieta earthquake, the 1989 earthquake in California. We saw the earthquake where it shook so bad that the freeway overpass actually came down and collapsed on the freeway overpass underneath of it, sandwiching people in between. My feeling is that we should be ready for anything and everything. I mean, those of us that don't live in the Midwest or don't live down south where there's tornadoes and hurricanes and those sort of things, you still have to prepare flashlights, flashlight batteries, plenty of water, enough water for every member of the family, at least for 1 week. Medical supplies, extra flashlights and extra flashlight batteries, CB radios, ham radios. Make sure you get your ham radio license. Those are coming really, really handy. Extra blankets, extra clean clothes, extra camping gear. These are the sort of things that, you know, in case something happens and you can't go back in your house because there's been a gas leak or there's damage to the house, and with the after tremors of an earthquake, you can end up finding yourself having to sleep out on your front or back lawns, okay? You should be prepared for anything and everything, and preferably keep a lot of your storage food in a place that you can get to it easily without having to go back in the house. A lot of people are purchasing storage facilities and taking their stuff there. I don't necessarily think that's a good idea, because then if something happens, electricity goes out, you can't get in through the automatic gate. Or if something happens, possession is 9/10 of the law, so therefore you can't get to your stuff if something happens. We all know, too, that if there was a major economic crash, or there was a major earthquake, to avoid the people that are going house to house looting, they would probably declare martial law. So you have to make sure that you're ready. You should always have in your car extra medical supplies, freeze-dried dehydrated food, a little bit of extra water, an empty gas can in case you need to get some gas somewhere. We know that things are happening right now. We understand that what's going on in this country is that everything's kind of in an upheaval right now, and people are fearful of the unknown. They don't know from which direction to turn. They don't know who to trust any longer. So what I'm asking you all, please, is to make sure that you're always prepared. Now, we're at the bottom of the hour right now, and if you want to call in, this is a good time to call in to area code 935-0094. That's area code 208-935-0094. We're going to go to a station break, and we'll be right back in just a few minutes. Folks, this is Maggie Rose, and we're back with the new Concord Hour, being brought to you by the Micro Effect Radio Broadcasting Network. I'd like to please put in a little plug that we'd like to see you be able to go in there and look at who our sponsors are, and please patronize our sponsors. Cy, are you with us right now? Hello, Cy.
Hi, Maggie. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hello.
Hi. I thought I'd join you today. It's raining here in Montana, and I'm still getting over my cold, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to come on yesterday.
Oh, that's quite okay. That's all right. So anyway, you're with us now, so it's good to hear from you. Do you have anything that you would like to add to the show? I heard that Ammon Bundy is being transferred possibly today from the Portland jail, which is downtown off of 3rd Street in Portland, Oregon, and he's being transferred to Nevada because Nevada wants him to face their so-called kangaroo court, federal court, with the supposedly arraignment or charges against him for what happened in 2014 when he was trying to defend his family property and his ranch.
Yeah, they have a lot to gain by getting him into their system and railroading him. So, just like the federal government has a lot to gain from getting him into the system and railroading him. If they can drain that family's resources, they can get their hands on that land by fiat.
Is that how they do it? I mean, how would they... What you're saying is they're trying to drain their financial situation, so therefore Mrs. Bundy cannot afford to pay the property taxes or pay any of the other fees. Is that what?
That's exactly what I'm saying, and that's exactly how they do it, how they push people off their land. They get them into the system by hook or by crook, and they just suck them dry like a vampire, and then the people lose anyway. It's a lose-lose situation, and that's what happens when the people themselves try to deal with, these behemoths that are the states and the federal government with no teeth. If you have no means of defending yourself, you're a victim from the get-go.
Wow.
It's just a matter of when and how they harvest you.
Well, it seems like no matter what we do, no matter where we turn, that the federal government and all of their self-interest groups, the corporations, the pharmaceuticals, what we call the New World Order, situation here that's going on, it seems they have absolutely no respect for their own people, for their own citizens. Our own country doesn't have any respect for our sovereignty. People are terrified. They say if Hillary gets into the presidency, Obama will immediately be sent over to the United Nations where he will become the head of the UN. Now, a lot of people were really outraged when he wasn't even president for a month. And already they were giving him the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, that was just outrageous. I had never seen anything like that done before. And people are concerned that if he ends up becoming the head of the United Nations, between him and her becoming president of the United States, we are going to be in so much trouble. Right now, I just had this handed to me by my mother. Did you know, Cy, that the United States is allowing. Now, I hope you're sitting down for this one, because my mother told me about this last night, and I just about flew off the couch. Do you remember that really bad accident that took place in Japan a few years ago? Did you know that all that nuclear waste is still pouring into the ocean? Are you aware of that?
Yes, I am 100% aware of it.
Okay, and my
they
brother...
have technologies tied up in the deep state, in the special access projects that could clean that up.
Exactly. And did you know my brother, who flies in and out of from Hawaii to Narita on a regular basis, how worried and concerned we were because of all that nuclear stuff going in the ocean. And of myself, I don't even like the idea. I love salmon and tuna, and I do not want to eat tuna or salmon on a regular basis that's coming from the Pacific Ocean. People say, oh, well, this salmon came from Alaska. Well, excuse me, this waste was already washing up on the shores of California, Oregon, and Washington. As even 2 years ago, it was already washing up. Now, listen to this. Here's a website. It's entitled Don't Dump Japan's Radioactive Waste in the U.S. And then it says here, it's called forcechange.com, www.force, F-O-R-C-E, change, C-N, no, I'm sorry, force, F-O-R-C-E, change, C-H-A-N-G-E, one word, .com /155702 /don't-dump-radioactive-material-in the U.S. And the article says here, the goal is to stop sending radioactive material to the Savannah River site in South Carolina. So what they're doing here, Cy, they are taking radioactive material from Japan, and they're bringing it to South Carolina, and they're dumping this material in the Savannah River site there in South Carolina. It says radioactive material from a Japanese research project is being sent to a nuclear reservation in South Carolina, despite protests from the state's governor that the area would risk becoming a, quote, permanent dumping ground for nuclear materials, unquote. The decision to send, I guess it's a few hundred pounds of plutonium to the Savannah River site on the border of South Carolina and Georgia was announced ahead of the Nuclear Security Summit. That's enough plutonium for more than 40 nuclear weapons, and the material is highly toxic. And it says here that Greenpeace, I guess, has saying that they're already stocking plutonium at the Savannah River site, and concerns have been raised that excessive radiation could be emitted if the toxic material reaches a certain mass. Low-income areas should not become dumping grounds for this toxic material. Nikki Haley, the governor of South Carolina, wrote a letter to the U.S. Energy Secretary Ernest Mons before the summit took place, demanding that the plutonium shipment be stopped or rerouted. Sign the petition that you can find on that website to urge the Secretary Moniz to reconsider these demands and find a better solution for depositing this dangerous nuclear materials. So, folks, radioactive material is being shipped from Japan to the Savannah River site nuclear reservation in South Carolina, despite protests about the environmental risk. And you can find that at www.forcechange.com /1557OT /don't-dump-radioactive-material-in the United States. Now, I understand that we have Chris on the line too. Chris, are you on joining Cy and me this afternoon?
I think I am.
Hi.
Hi, Chris.
You know, you're talking about Fukushima, and I remember this like it was yesterday. Within 36 hours of that occurring, I contacted what was called radiationnetwork.com, I think, and I advised them that I was fearful this was going to be an extinction-level event, much like the China syndrome. What led me to deduce that so clearly and completely that clear was that they were being intentionally, consciously indifferent and not doing the things that normal people would do in the event of something of that nature occurring. We know that the so-called earthquake that caused the tsunami, although it was a high-level earthquake, there's still some questions about what precipitated that particular event especially. But notwithstanding that, after the fact, when those waves washed across the shore, took out the power lines that were feeding the generators to run those motors to cool those rods in the fuel pools, they did not do anything which a normal emergency responder to a nuclear event would do, like flying in gensets that power those pumps to keep that meltdown from occurring. This, to me, manifested it was intentional, and the stories of nuclear weapons-grade plutonium and other rods on top of those pools and in those particular reactor cells told me that it was a plotted, cleverly planned conspiracy to really degrade the waters of the world under this guise of the pretense of an earthquake and a tsunami that they could not do anything about when they maliciously would not do anything to intercede prudently as a normal person would.
Right. You know, I've got something right here, Cy and Chris. It was put out by Mark Gill, and he said the human appetite for animal flesh is a driving force behind virtually every major category of environmental damage now threatening the human future. Deforestation, erosion, freshwater scarcity, air and water pollution, climate change, biodiversity loss, social injustice, the destabilization of communities, and the spread of disease. And that came out of the World Watch Institute. Then another person said, this came from Beth Knopfler, and she said, Japan dumps radioactive waste, and Egypt takes and ships our water, our government, and every aspect is a failure, while Raka Satori said, I live near Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico. We have been informed that nuclear waste from Japan is coming here as well. In the 1980s, we fought against using our caverns, in the caverns underground, right, for nuclear waste.
Right.
Of course, the industry finally got their way. The concession was that only low-level waste would be allowed. But now, of course, that stipulation is being overpowered by the American corporations that are complicit in the Japanese disaster. This is horrific. I cannot believe this.
It's part of the Global Redesign Initiative, Maggie. What they're doing is they know that we are an armed population. They cannot take us by force. And so they are going to kill us off using this radiation and by eliminating the food sources that depend upon water. Okay? If the water is not drinkable, it kills off the animals. And, since we refuse to plant our own gardens, we expect that in a crisis we're going to live off of whatever wildlife or animal life there happens to be out there, even if we're eating our own dogs and cats. Okay? So what they've discerned is that they will kill us off by allowing this seemingly natural disaster to go rampant. And they're taking just enough of the debris that washes up on our shores and stashing it here in the United States. The reason they're doing this is because they've already determined that the United States is going to become a simulated reserve and corridor system to protect biodiversity. They have maps that show a vast portion, particularly here in the West, being depopulated and not having any people in it.
Maggie and Cy, this is really diabolical. I also recall with specificity watching the tracking of the radiation monitors, the radiationnetwork.com, as the fumaroles, the polluting fumes from radiation burning up and boiling off of those tubes in those chambers entered the stratosphere and was conducted via the jet stream to the east of Fukushima. And it would come across the Pacific Northwest up in the Oregon, Washington area, Northern California. It would come across, it would dip down through Colorado, and then it would take a dip to the south and go over to the Washington, Virginia, Maryland area. And this particular event is also being covered over, giving the air of plausible deniability, except for those of us that pay close attention, that the chemtrails having cesium and strontium contained in them might be a cover to try to cover up the effects of Fukushima, to allege that we can't tell the difference when there absolutely is a nuclear signature attributed to each different type of radiation that is certainly detectable for experts who have the equipment to do so.
That's right. They've already used our depleted uranium in the weapons and in the ammunition that they sent over to these foreign theaters of war to supposedly dispose of it in these foreign theaters of war, essentially transfer or garbage dumping, essentially, over in these other undesirable populated places, but also to expose our people. Now, when our people came back with essentially radiation sickness, aka Gulf War syndrome, etc., mixed with some other biological issues, they enabled the Veterans Administration to deny that they were exposed to radiation or to anything associated with that, aka the biologicals that they were vaccinated with. And so they have genetically damaged, and not just the health, but the genome of everyone who went over to the Middle East. And that's some of our best and brightest personnel. Traditionally, Americans who have been in, foreign theaters of war go on to things of honorable status, which used to be politics.
Well, you ladies are very astute, and the listeners in this channel in particular are way above the normal average American. But we have all postulated and identified the fact that asymmetrical warfare incorporates all different forms and strategies of using any form of technocracy, education, environmental management, or whatever else you want to as a form of war against the people. It's difficult for them to define. And I recall with extreme specificity, within 2 weeks of that event, the Rothschilds, Lady Evelyn the Rothschild, and I think her brother's name was David, brought up all the weather dissemination services around the Earth. And then they, shortly after, they recalibrated the radiation detection and tuned them down so you couldn't figure out what was going on. And they re-rated it instead of the old rad count that we used to use. They now form it in becquerels, and nobody has any concept what a becquerel is. I don't even know. Yeah. It's a new form of calculating so that people don't know how dangerous it is. And like you say, the stuff is heading down from the air, and it's covering all the land, all the air on the earth, all the water on the planet, and every animal and living creature will be infected with this insidious dissemination of full-spectrum radiation contamination.
That's right. Now, the chem sprays, they deplete the immune system. So if you have radiation attacking through the air from the ground, essentially, like through your water, through your food sources, that right there is capable of taking down a compromised immune system. If it wasn't for the chem spraying, a fair portion of our population might survive the radiation effects. Because if you look at the animals over in the Fukushima area, there's an article out right now that talks about the wild boars, the wild pigs that are over there are thriving because they're no longer being, destroyed by human hunters because, people are being kept out of the area. So they're thriving. Well, certain numbers of animals might thrive here, except for their immune system is being taken down, same as ours.
What is it that we believe that has anybody been able to get samples yet? I heard that some people are getting samples of what is coming to the ground after the contract through our skies, especially when there's been such a large concentration like a tic-tac-toe across the sky. Right.
There has been lab tests already of that content. Barium, I know, is one of them. Let's see here. I can look it up real quick.
Dimethyl aluminum?
Yes, aluminum.
There is That's serologic. There are blood-borne particles, nanoparticles. Like you say, the trimethyl aluminum, which is nano-aluminum. There is the tungsten, which is what they make light bulbs out of. I suspect there's probably lead and mercury also entrained in that chemical spray. And since it's proprietary under the pretense of national security, thanks to Bush and Cheney, we don't know, but we can certainly have had expert examinations and microscopic examinations and determine that these things occur in there, and the amounts of aluminum are astronomical. If you might recall the fire they had in Arizona where it killed several firefighters, about 20 of them as I recall. I don't remember the name of the fire, but that was because of the trimethyl aluminum has the tendency to destroy the land, to make it unproductive, to kill the trees, that leaves a silvery bark on them because of the aluminum contamination as they die in present. And, of course, they attribute it to some sort of bark beetle.
Yeah, they attribute it to the bark beetle. We have that problem up here in Montana, that kind of die-off of the trees. If you go to globalskywatch.com/stories/mychemtrails/chemtrail information, you can find a page that talks about chemtrail types. And it gives 8 different types, if you believe, or more than 8 here. A salty metallic type, an iron aluminum type, a drywall dust type, acetone type, swamp water type, pharmaceutical type, a sulfur type, a blunt metallic type, a metallic chemical type, a pesticide type, a freshly cut grass type. It goes on to list a bunch. But and then it describes the contents of each type. Those are the colloquial names for them. But then you get into it, you find all the different contents. Some of them are substances such as the barium, the selenium, etc. And then others are biological in nature.
Now, I hear Bonnie said in the chat room that another one of the things that happens to be in the chemtrails is lithium. Were you aware of that?
Yes, I have heard that lithium is in some of the trails, yes.
Wow. Yeah, I was not aware of that.
Lithium in the water in the cities in order to keep the populations of the cities more pacified and controllable.
Right, folks, you need to understand that this has been an insidious thing that's been going on for decades. Our government secretly brought a lot of the Nazis over here from Germany after World War II. The very Nazis that were murdering gypsies and Jewish people in the Holocaust that did definitely take place. They were bringing them over here as scientists and people helping them as far as certain inventions were going on. They were the ones that brought fluoride over here. Fluoride in your toothpaste, fluoride in your mouthwash, which can actually cause over a period of time a sort of mental dumbing down. Folks, we're being assaulted from all different directions, and that's why I understand a lot of people now are making their own toothpaste, or they're purchasing the natural toothpaste called Tom's. There's the toothpaste you can buy here on the Micro Effect. We have a sponsor that sells a special kind of brand of toothpaste. You can make your own soap. You can make your own shampoo. My brother says that when he goes and purchases something in the store, if it has more than 2 or 3 ingredients, he won't buy it. And what somebody said the other day, y'all know Shauna Cox, who was shot at by the federal government when they were ambushed and Lavoie was assassinated. Well, her sister, Holly Olmstead, sister to Shauna Cox, happens to sell essential oils. And she had a class yesterday where she was talking about the GMOs, that if you buy anything out of a box that has enriched, that means they've taken that food, they've taken all the good stuff out of it, and they put back their own stuff, which is probably GMO type stuff. So you really don't want to eat anything that comes out of a box or that's already prepared. Agreed, Si?
Agreed. Totally agreed. Folks, you need to do your own cooking.
Yep. Well, Chris, thank you so much for coming on today again. And Cy, thank you for coming back on to the Concord Hour today. And Cy will be with us every Wednesday if it's convenient for her. And she can work it around her schedule. And then she and Donna and I will be coming up every Wednesday today, together with the Girls Wednesday. We invite the guys to call in and share with us the topics they would like to hear. Cy, we're going to have to talk to Donna again, see if she's come up with a name. Otherwise, we're going to have to do some brainstorming here for our Wednesday Women Chat. What do you think?
Sounds good.
Okay, well, thank you, Chris, again. Chris, you need to come back on next Tuesday and give us an update of what's going on with the Bundys in Nevada, since you're not too far away from where all this is taking place, all right?
I should have a report for you before then. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Cy. We'll talk to you guys all, folks, next week. This is Maggie Rose in the new Concord Hour. It's brought to you every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on the Micro Effect Radio Broadcasting Network. And you guys all have a wonderful weekend. Keep yourselves safe. God bless you all, and we'll see you all next Tuesday.